The village of Olorni Fair awoke each day with the sound of drums, children running barefoot in the dust, and women pounding yam in the courtyards. But within this lively place, there was a woman whose laughter had long died, Amina. She was young, graceful, and once filled with hope when she married Malik, the proud son of the village chief. But as the seasons turned and years rolled by, her womb remained empty. Each month came with tears, each festival with humiliation. Her co-wives mocked her, whispering loudly whenever she passed. What is a woman without children? Nothing but a shadow. Even Malik, once gentle, had turned cold. His eyes that once lingered on her now shifted away, as though ashamed of her presence. Amina often retreated to the riverbank at night, where her late mother once told her secrets of the ancestors. There, under the pale moonlight, she poured her heart out, her tears falling into the current. One particular night, when the sky was heavy with clouds, her cries became unbearable even for the silence of the land. She lifted her arms toward the heavens. Why me, O Creator? Am I cursed? Am I not a woman? Have I not prayed enough? Her sobs shook her body until she collapsed by the water's edge. Suddenly, the river shimmered with a strange glow, and the ripples began to move against the wind. A soft, melodic voice rose from the depths. Amina, your tears have reached me. From your sorrow, life shall spring. But remember, what is born of tears carries both blessing and burden. Terrified, Amina looked up and saw a woman rise from the river. Her skin glistened like moonlight on water, her hair flowing like dark currents. It was Oya, the river goddess. The goddess stretched out her hand. You shall bear a daughter. She will be the rain your people thirst for, but she will also carry the storm that may destroy them. Love her, guide her, but be ready for the price. Before Amina could speak, the waters surged and swallowed the goddess whole. The river calmed, leaving only silence and the taste of salt tears on Amina's lips. That night, for the first time in years, she returned home with hope in her heart and a secret in her soul. 9 moons later, she gave birth to a child, her cries bringing heavy rain that quenched the dry fields. The villagers, astonished, gathered and whispered, "The heavens weep with her. This is no ordinary child." And so, the girl was named Zarah, the child of tears. From the moment she was born, Zarah was unlike any other child in Olornife. Her first cry brought not only sound but a downpour of rain, drenching the village after a long drought. The elders marveled, calling it a sign from the gods, while others muttered that it was an omen of danger. As she grew, her powers became more evident. When Zarah laughed, flowers bloomed out of season in the courtyards. When she grew sad, the skies darkened, and thunder rolled over the hills. And when she cried, heavy rains fell, even if the sun had shone brightly moments before. The villagers began to whisper her name with both reverence and fear. The child of tears. Children followed her playfully, enchanted by her gift, while some elders kept their distance, believing she was a spirit in human form. Women touched her garments, hoping for fertility blessings, while men avoided her gaze, fearing her tears could curse their farmlands. Through it all, Amina loved her fiercely. She shielded her from cruel tongues, telling her, "My Zarah, you are not a curse. You are the proof that the gods answer prayers. Never forget, you were born for my tears, and every drop was worth you." But whispers of prophecy traveled quickly. The village priest warned the chief. This child carries the river spirit. She is a blessing, yes, but her destiny will demand a sacrifice. Either she saves us one day, or she destroys us. The words spread like wildfire, and while Zarah blossomed into a beautiful young girl, there was always a shadow in the way people looked at her, half love, half fear. One evening, as the sun set in blood-red hues, Zarah returned home in tears after being mocked by other children. She wept so bitterly that a sudden storm broke out, lightning striking a nearby palm tree. Amina rushed to her side, holding her tightly. The storm only calmed when Zarah's sobs finally subsided in her mother's arms. That night, Amina whispered to herself, her heart heavy with dread. Oya said she carries the storm. How long before the storm consumes us all? Seasons passed, and Zarah grew into a radiant young girl, tall, graceful, with eyes that shimmered like dew in morning light. But her life remained far from ordinary. Every emotion she felt echoed through nature itself. When she laughed, the earth responded with beauty. When she grieved, the skies turned gray. Amina tried to teach her to control her gift, but power like Zarah's could not be caged. It flowed like the river goddess who had given her life. Then came the great drought. The sun scorched the fields until they cracked open like broken clay. The riverbeds dried, fish died, and hunger began to walk boldly through the land. The villagers who once mocked Amina now turned her home with desperate eyes. One hot afternoon, the village chief and the elders arrived, their faces lined with worry. "Amina," the chief said, "the rain no longer visits us. The gods gave your daughter power. Let her call upon it now." Amina's heart trembled. "She is but a child," she protested. "She does not yet understand the depth of her gift." But the chief's tone hardened. "If she does not help us, the people will believe she brings the drought itself." Hearing this, Zarah stepped forward, barefoot, her face calm yet sorrowful. "If my tears can help the people," she said softly, "then let them fall." The villagers gathered around as Zarah knelt at the edge of the cracked river. She closed her eyes, remembering her mother's words, and whispered a prayer to the river goddess. Moments passed. Then one single tear slipped down her cheek. The wind stirred. Clouds gathered. The sky darkened. Suddenly, a roar of thunder split the heavens, and the rain poured down with fury. The villagers screamed and danced, falling to their knees, crying out in gratitude. "The child of tears has saved us." But as the rain drenched the land, Zarah fainted into her mother's arms. The storm did not stop for 3 whole days. Floods swept through the farmlands, drowning goats and tearing through huts. What began as a blessing soon became a curse. When the storm finally ended, the priest declared, "Her powers are too strong. The river goddess demands balance. A sacrifice will soon be needed to calm the spirits." Amina clutched her daughter tightly that night, her tears mingling with Zarah's. She realized the prophecy was awakening, and the storm within Zarah was only beginning. The rains finally ceased, but they left behind destruction and fear. Mud huts crumbled, livestock were lost, and the once celebrating villagers now murmured with unease. "The rain was too strong," they said. "The child does not bring blessings. She brings storms." Everywhere Zarah went, she could feel their eyes on her, watchful, suspicious, afraid. Children who once played with her now hid behind their mother's wrappers. The same mouths that had praised her now whispered, "Spirit child, river witch." Amina tried to protect her daughter from the cruelty. But even in her mother's arms, Zarah could not silence the call that came to her at night, the soft, rhythmic whisper from the river. One evening, drawn by that voice, she slipped away. The moon hung full and white, lighting the path as she approached the riverbank. The water shimmered strangely, though no wind blew. Then, a familiar voice rose from the rippling surface. "My child of tears." Zarah froze. The river began to glow softly, and from its depths emerged the same goddess who once appeared to Amina, Oya, the spirit of the waters. Her eyes glowed like stars beneath the current. "Zarah, the balance of nature trembles. You called the rain, but you have not yet learned to command it. Soon, the earth will thirst again, and the people will cry for you. When that time comes, They will seek to offer your life to silence the storm. Tears welled in Zarah's eyes. But I only wanted to help them. Your tears are not only yours, my child. They belong to the earth. The gift that flows within you was never meant to be simple. Every drop you shed carries power and price. The goddess reached out a glowing hand and touched Zarah's forehead. A flash of visions filled her mind. Villagers holding torches, her mother crying, and herself standing before a raging river that demanded her sacrifice. Zarah fell to her knees, trembling. Must I die for them to live? But the goddess only whispered, even the river must give to flow again. Then the waters grew still. When Zarah opened her eyes, the goddess was gone, leaving only her reflection on the dark river, eyes glowing faintly like a fading ember. She returned home in silence, clutching her chest, afraid to tell her mother what she had seen. From that night onward, the whisper of the river never left her mind. And in her dreams, she began to see visions of a great flood, a flood she feared she would one day cause. Months passed, and the land of Olornife once again began to wither. The rains that Zarah had called upon faded away, leaving the fields cracked and lifeless. Wells ran dry, the river grew thin, and the air itself seemed to hold its breath. The villagers grew desperate. Every day, they gathered under the great Irako tree, whispering, arguing, blaming. It began with her tears, said one man. Let her cry again, said another. And if she refuses? Then the gods must be appeased. Rumors of sacrifice began to crawl like shadows through the village. Zarah, now 14, felt the tension pressing on her chest every time she stepped outside. She could feel their eyes burning into her skin, the fear, the hate, the pleading. Children she once played with now threw stones at her hut, chanting, River Witch, bring back the rain. One evening, the chief's guards arrived. Their leader, an old man with sorrow in his eyes, said quietly, Amina, the council demands the girl's presence at the shrine tomorrow. The priest says the gods require her tears or her blood. Amina's body trembled. My daughter is not a sacrifice, she hissed. She is a child. But the guard only bowed his head. If she does not come willingly, they will come for her by force. That night, mother and daughter sat in silence. Zarah looked at her mother with glistening eyes. Mama, maybe this is my fate. Maybe the goddess meant for me to end this suffering. Amina grabbed her hands fiercely. No, my child. The gods do not demand your death. They demand understanding. You're not meant to die. You are meant to live and master the power within you. Zarah began to cry softly. The air shifted, a faint rumble of thunder rolling across the distant hills. Amina wiped her tears quickly before they could fall to the ground. Not now, Zarah, she whispered. You must control it. Do not let them use your tears against you. But by dawn, the villagers had gathered, hundreds of them, carrying torches and drums, their voices echoing through the air. Bring out the child of tears. Let her weep for the land or face the wrath of the gods. Amina stood in front of the hut, shielding her daughter. Her eyes burned with fury and love. You will not touch her, she cried. The priest stepped forward, his staff glowing faintly. Then the curse shall remain. And when the drought kills your children, their blood will be on your hands. The crowd roared, the dust rising, the air thick with anger and fear. And in that moment of chaos, Zarah's fear exploded. Tears burst from her eyes, falling to the earth like silver flames. The sky cracked open, thunder screaming. The wind howled and rain fell, heavy and violent. But unlike before, this storm came with fury. Trees tore from their roots, lightning struck the ground, and screams filled the air as villagers ran for shelter. Zarah's cry had become a weapon of despair. When the storm ended, half the village lay in ruin. Zarah lay unconscious in her mother's arms, rain still dripping from her lashes. Amina clutched her tightly, sobbing. "You see, my child," she whispered through tears, "your tears do not only bring life, they bring truth. And truth can destroy." The storm left Olornife broken. Huts were shattered, farmlands flooded, and silence lingered like smoke after a fire. The villagers were terrified, not only of what had happened, but of Zarah herself. To them, she was no longer a child. She was the storm walking in human form. That night, under the pale ghost of the moon, Amina gathered what little she could. She wrapped Zarah, still weak and trembling, in a shawl, and whispered, "We must go, my child, before they come again." The two slipped into the darkness, guided only by the soft hum of the river in the distance. The wind whispered through the trees, as if warning them that eyes watched from every shadow. They walked for hours, barefoot through mud and silence. When they finally stopped to rest under an ancient baobab tree, Zarah stirred, her voice barely a whisper. "Mama, the river calls me. She wants me to come home." Amina's heart clenched. "What do you mean, child?" "I see her in my dreams. She says the curse must end with me." Tears gathered in her eyes, but Amina quickly wiped them away. "No, we will not give you to that river. You are my child, not a sacrifice." But the wind shifted again, and from far away came a faint melody, soft, haunting, and beautiful. It was the same voice that had called Amina all those years ago. They followed it through the forest until they reached the banks of the river Arend, the river of spirits. The water glowed faintly, shimmering like starlight scattered upon its surface. As they stood there, the river began to ripple and churn. From its depths emerged Oya, radiant and powerful, her form surrounded by silver mist. "The time has come," the goddess said. "The child's tears have both blessed and broken this land. The balance must be restored." Amina fell to her knees. "Please, goddess, spare her. Take me instead." But Oya shook her head. The mother's tears brought life, but only the daughter's courage can lift the curse. Zarah stepped forward, her feet touching the glowing water. "If my tears bring both life and death, then I will cry one last time for peace." Amina screamed, "No!" But it was too late. Zarah closed her eyes and began to sing, a song of sorrow, of love, of all the pain she had carried since birth. As she sang, tears flowed freely, falling into the river. The water rose and surrounded her like a cocoon of light. The goddess whispered, "When her tears touch the river, the storm within her shall rest." The sky darkened. Thunder rolled. But this time, the storm was gentle, cleansing. The rain fell softly across Olornife, reviving the land. Flowers bloomed once again. When the light faded, Zarah was gone. Only ripples remained on the river's surface. Amina fell to her knees, her cry piercing the night. But then, a soft drizzle began, warm, peaceful, and she looked up to see a rainbow forming across the sky. From the river came the faintest whisper, "Mama, I am the rain now. I will never leave you." Amina smiled through her tears. And from that day, whenever rain blessed the village, the people would say, "The child of tears still watches over us." Years passed in the village of Olornife, yet the memory of that night never faded. The river flowed stronger than ever. The lands became fertile, and the people who once lived in fear of storms now raised their faces joyfully whenever the rain fell. They no longer called it the curse. They called it Zarah's blessing. A shrine was built near the river Arend, carved with the image of a young girl whose tears turned into streams of light. Each year, when the rains returned, the villagers would gather there, singing songs, dancing barefoot in the water, and offering white flowers to the spirit they once feared. And at the center of it all was Amina. Her hair had grown silver, her eyes lined with years of tears and strength, but her spirit burned brighter than ever. She became known as the keeper of the river. Children came to her to hear the story, how love gave birth to a miracle, how tears can heal the world, and how the river carries the soul of a child who once saved them all. Whenever she stood by the river's edge, the wind would shift, and the water would ripple gently, as though a small hand was touching it from beneath. Sometimes, when the rains began to fall, she would lift her face to the sky and whisper softly, "My Zarah, are you here with me?" And always, always, a soft, warm drizzle would kiss her cheeks, like the tender tears of a daughter answering her mother's call. The people of Olornife learned something deeper than any priest's sermon could teach them. That power without love destroys, but love even in pain gives life eternal. Zarah's story became legend, told from one generation to another. And so, whenever thunder rolled across the sky, the villagers smiled and said, "The child of tears is laughing among the clouds."